Okay, Bruchim Aboim, we're going to continue our daily Halachah Shir. So we bring here again from the Rambam Hilchos Teshuvah. Today happens to be the Rambam's Yartzeit. The Rambam brought in, we learned 2 days ago that there are certain Jews who, basically we could say Judaism is not a racist religion. Just being born Jewish is not enough in all circumstances. You have to have some basic connection to Jewish faith. And what basically we said is that heresy is what cuts a Jew off from the Jewish faith. Meaning, most actions, unless they're habitual, do not cut someone off. The Rambam's now going to talk about habitual actions, but he's going to explain and qualify that really all of these are only as a symptom of a form of heresy that makes someone lose their place in the world to come as a Jew. So again, we're still in the Rambam Hilchos Teshuvah, Parak Gimel, Maimonides, the Law of Repentance, chapter 3. It says, Shnayim heim havaryanim Yisrael. There are two types of Jews who are called avaryanim. That means someone who is constantly violating, a habitual violator of the Halachah. And there are two types of avaryanim. Havaryan le'avera achas. There's the one who denies, who is constantly and habitually violating one particular sin. Havaryan l'chol kula. And then there's navaryan, a person who's constantly violating the Torah in its entirety. So, Havarian Levera Achas. What does it mean, someone who's an Havarian Levera Achas, that he is a violator of one particular sin? That's someone who has made it clear that he has a chazaka, he has a clear pattern of performing a particular sin on purpose. By accident wouldn't be. In this Parshas, he flaunts it. He's famous. He makes it obvious. He publicizes that he does this for Hugel, and it's a habit. He's habitual. He's a habitual offender. Even Philohaisim in a kalos. And even if it was not such a grave sin, but it's one of the things that the Torah prohibits, kigoyin shehuchzak tamid lulboy shatnez. For example, if you can assume that this person will always wear shatnez, then he's an avarian to the mitzvah of shatnez. He denies that mitzvah, and shatnez means that we don't wear wool and linen together, and things like that. So, meaning it sounds like a little thing. Well, it's a big deal. You wear wool and linen together. But someone that they're always going out of their way to wear wool and linen just to show that that's what they believe, so that they don't believe, they don't accept it. It's like, oh, that's a silly mitzvah, and they're not going to accept it. So that's Navarian l'mitzvah achaz. Or lahakif peya, or he shaves off the corner of his hair. I don't mean that he cuts it, but he shaves it with the razor. He cuts it very, very short. Then what does it mean? To him, it's like he no longer accepts. It's that as far as he's concerned, that mitzvah doesn't exist. It's nullified. Etzloi, by him, Hari's avarian loisei davar. Then he's considered an avarian loisei davar. He's a violator of that thing habitually. But the Rambam then qualifies it for hushiyas lahachis. That's when the person violates this lahachis in order to anger God, in order to show that he's not doing it because he has a good reason to do it. He's only doing it as a rebel, to demonstrate his rebellion against God. And so that's a form of heresy, and that would be what would cause him to lose his place in Olam Haba. Okay, Havarian l'chol Torah kula. So meaning if he does this sin, but it's because he knows it's wrong, and he doesn't want it. He can't help himself. It's too difficult. Then he wouldn't lose his place in the world to come. There's a story that there was. I forget which Rebbe it was. I think a Kapushnitzer Rebbe in the Lower East Side. He was walking on Yom Kippur and he saw a Jew eating in a restaurant on Yom Kippur, a treifa restaurant, of course, wouldn't be a kosher restaurant open on Yom Kippur. And he walks in and he says, Bon appetit. Why? Because of this. Because if he's a mumar lahaches, if his sin is in order to rebel against God, so then it's really bad. He loses everything. But if he's a mumar lateyavon, if he's only committing the sin because it's too hard for him, he enjoys eating this and he can't overcome that lust, so then it's still a sin. He has to face punishment for it, but he doesn't lose everything. Okay, what does it mean someone who is an avarian, he's violating the entire for the entire Torah? Let's say the Gentile nations were living among them, would make a decree that against our religion, like now, the Obama administration is doing against our Christian neighbors. We should stand up and fight for them because we could be next. The famous poem from the minister from Germany. He said, when they came for the Jews, I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Jew. When they came from the Catholics, I didn't stand up because I wasn't a Catholic. When they came for me, there was no one to stand up for me. So you have to be very worried about this, the violation of the constitutional rights that promise every American freedom of religion. It's a very scary thing. And we've experienced this much throughout our history. And the Rambam says very interesting, because we generally understand the Rambam to be very makel in this issue. But sof kol sof, the Rambam says that if there are decrees made against the Jewish religion, so someone says, well, why should I be a Jew? I'll just become a Gentile. It doesn't really, spiritually, doesn't change the person. He's neither a Jew nor a Gentile really at that point. But you don't become a Gentile. You just not fully Jewish either, really, in certain issues. But in certain things you are fully Jewish. It's a very complicated thing. But he would lose his place in the world to come. So he attaches himself to Gentiles, and he says, what do I have to gain? What do I have to gain by staying with the Jews? They're low, and they're persecuted. It's better that I should attach myself to these non-Jews who are the powerful ones. Because he forgets about being a Jew, he's considered a varian l'kol Torah kula, and if he dies without repenting from that grave sin, then he loses everything. All the more so now, if that's the case, and we see that the Rambam says this in the case of a gezerah. So all the more so now, when there are no gezerahs, we have freedom of religion for now, Baruch Hashem, and we should hope that and pray that it should continue at Bias Gedol Tzedek, and for a Jew to give up his faith and join a different faith. That's a Navarian l'kol Torah kula, and he loses out on everything. It's a very scary thing. And then the third halacha for today says another group that's mentioned who loses out on everything is not really someone who is, by etzem definition, is not necessarily a heretic, but it's really still a demonstration of heresy. And those are machtiei rabim. Those are the ones who cause the masses to sin. Because, alright, you want to sin yourself, it's one thing. You want someone else to sin with you because it's enjoyable, it's another thing. But to just cause everyone else to sin, why would you do that? Don't you want, so you want to throw away your heaven? You're going to throw away for everyone? So that would be the worst thing. It's a very bad thing. So, Ketzad, what is this talking about? It doesn't matter whether he's causing them to sin a great thing like Jeroboam, who made them worship idols, or Tzadok and Visus, who brought heresy to thousands of Jews. That's considered machti rabim. And even if he causes him to sin in a small thing, a fill of vital mitzvahs saying, even to not fulfill a positive commandment, and there are of course different issues with this, but sof kol sof, if it's done in a particular way, then it's considered machti rabim. Ve'echad ha'ma'anis acherim ad sheyechtu, or others who force someone else to sin until who force them until they sin. Menashe shaharugis shal sheyavdu of Zara, like Menashe, the king of Yehuda, who would kill the Jews until they worshipped idols. Also, a missionary is included in this. So we should be very careful, stay away from heresy, and to keep the faith. Especially today's the Rambam's Yartzeit. We should, it's. I remember I saw it brought down for the Yartzeit of Rebbe Melech to say tefillah and settle cotton even if you don't say every day. So the same thing I would say, even if you don't say the Ani Mamins every day, even though it's not the exact lashon of the Rambam, but it's based on the Rambam's teachings. Today is a good day to say Ani Mamin, and it's a big segula. The Reb Pinchas Karitzer brings that it's a segula for Parnasa to say the Ani Mamins 3 times a day. So you should always be zeichet to Parnasa and Refuah. It's also a segula to light a candle for the Rambam for Refuah. It was brought from Anshe Yerushalayim. So we should be zeichet to all bracha and hatzlacha and all good. Kol Tuf. Have a good day.